August 28th, 2022. So, let's see here. What do we got? Flight call, piece of the map. Let's see what this is. Piece of the map from Flight Call's debut album, Homeworld, a unique 10-song meditative art pop journey from inner space to outer space. Interesting. Flight Call, self-portrait. Electronic conceptual music project persona. Flight Call. Ethereal pink light. Back looking onto a forested landscape. Shore wings in the form of a black kimono style blouse covered in green. Across her shoulders and arms. Extra dimensional. Fell to earth character. Or star necklace. Polaris. Star. Portland Celestial Jewelry Maker. Ziggy Stardust. David Bowie. Love of sci-fi mysticism. Visions of other worlds. Music project for Woodville. It's more than that. She's an embodied persona from the stars, a cosmic visitor with a mission. Translates both as earthbound bird and cosmic flight by way of yet another space odyssey. Star Wars. Last Jedi. Watching that. First female Jedi. Flight Call. If she knew the history of Star Wars, that's silly to say the first female Jedi. If you play role-playing Star Wars for Old Republic, there's plenty of female Jedi. But that's all good. I understand what she's trying to say. Musical first Earth with musical or writing offering. Frontwoman and guitarist in her former indie rock band Sugar in wartime. Still, Starseeds hailing from a family of artists and performers raised in California. Born and raised in Southern California. Only child of actors Edward Albert. No disrespect, but what about people who don't come from famous people? Do those people matter? Should they be in the spotlight? Should they get attention like you do? I don't know. That's just my opinion. I could be just. Let's see what else we got. Power-filled days ahead. New Moon Saturday, August 27th, which was yesterday. So this has to do with the coronal mass ejections, plasma particles. So there were some ejections yesterday. Everybody's waiting for the big solar flare. I think the sun reacts to our consciousness, honestly. So we'll see. It might happen, it might not happen in my lifetime. Eventually, a solar flare would happen, but is it going to hit us? That's the question. I mean, it depends how big the solar flare is, what kind, all that stuff. Solar groups and the origin of the soul, the Pleiadians. Okay, this is just getting into Pleiadian stuff. Reiki and breast cancer soul lesson. And spoke just as much as required for her Reiki session. That's good. This is a positive experience and saying how Reiki has affected someone in a good way. Um, so if you find a really good Reiki person that you can afford, key problem here. Key problem with Starseeds in our mission is people want to charge a lot for their stuff, and it's people who can't afford it that really need it. I understand you gotta make a living in this crazy evolved form of serfdom called capitalism. I guess it's better than the monarchy evolved form called communism. I don't know. I haven't lived in communist China. I imagine, according to what I've seen and heard, better, but I don't know if it's a good thing. I'm still under the impression it's draconian. I think both systems are draconian, honestly. So until we get into a better economic system, it is what it is, I guess. New moon in Virgo yesterday. New moon in Virgo, 4 degrees of Virgo, comes exact at 4:16 a.m. New York time. That was 36 hours ago. Something like that. I'm not sure. Represented by the maiden, Northern Hemisphere, final third of summer. Yeah, Virgo. Yeah. It is the best time during the lunar cycle to start new projects. New projects that you start in the wake of this particular new moon. Hey, this is a new one. I haven't done this before. New shows, Starseeds, News, and Humanity. New moon and a lot of good energy behind it to succeed in the long term as long as you stay committed and disciplined and plan things wisely. Aspect of this new moon chart is that Mars in Gemini squares the Sun and Moon nearly exactly, making this nearly exact square to Mars. There is an increased threat of war and violence, especially with Jupiter still retrograde in Aries and the energy from Mars Saturn square on the most recent full moon still being in play. We also have a newly retrograde Uranus squaring Saturn, which adds to their power big effect. So China's this is the year of the water tiger, and China is under pressure to their government, military and stuff. They're getting pressured from within and out to try to take back Taiwan, which is independent, which has female leadership. So all you females out there might want to support Taiwan because I highly suspect that China will do something to Taiwan, devastating it, taking control of it. And what our government does, I don't know. Here in America, I'm talking. Improving inner dialogue. Virgo is concerned with communication and is ruled by Mercury. Thus far, we have discussed the theme of communication with others, but what about dialogue with yourselves? I thought Virgo was also ruled by Venus, but I don't know. Maybe people say Taurus, and I'm like, no, that's Earth. I don't know. There's a lot of debate about all that. One of the most difficult aspects of the awakening journey is challenging and mastering your mental body. In order to master this lesson of the mind, it requires a great amount of discipline and practice. Someone with little control over their mind will be able to progress spirituality in many ways, but will simply not be as happy or content as someone who has really learned to master their mind. When it comes to this topic, one of the most important things to understand is that thinking is not always the same mechanism. Sometimes you are actively thinking thoughts, for example, while you are logically trying to solve a problem, while other times thoughts are actually thinking you. The reason for this is something called T fields. T fields are clouds of energy. They're located within your energy field in spaces, homes, and businesses, or wherever people congregate. T fields can be passed from person to person, kind of like a virus. Why are they referencing virus? Why not like community or something? This is why if you have dinner or with some pretty negative people, for example, you're probably going to start thinking negatively or something. That's why they say like virus. And if you have dinner with some really positive, upbeat people, your thoughts are going to become more positive. Yeah, which is, the herd immunity, right? You're immune to the negative because you're part of a herd that's dealt with the negative. those who haven't struggled enough, your time will come where you will struggle enough to learn your lesson. Just don't be ego-driven thinking the only lesson is to be positive, right? Like there's more to this planet. Whether or not, most of the time thoughts are actually thinking you. Let's see, as you shift subconscious patterns into more supportive subconscious patterns, naturally resonant T fields in your aura will shift to more positive T fields. If you are then able to surround yourself with positive people more of the time, you will find your thoughts permanently shifting for the better. True. The other thing is really important to remember when it comes to improving your inner dialogue is to breathe. People who breathe shallowly most of the time tend not to have the most supportive inner dialogue, as when the breathing is shallow, the nervous system is stressed. The stressed nervous system will generally produce stressed thoughts. You remember to breathe deeply as you are going about your day, you are likely to experience a levity in your thoughts. This is why, as I said, I recommend daily deep breathing practice for most everyone. And then there goes okay, here we go. Uranus retrograde, square with Saturn, the planet of rebellion, innovation, all things unexpected. It's currently exalted as it just left its station phase and went retrograde. During Uranus retrograde, which is as outer planets do, tends to affect more the collective more than individuals. Focus moves from achieving freedom, independence, innovation in the outer world to achieving said virtues in the inner world. Over the next 5 months, we will be doing some deep soul searching, and when we come out of the other side, and Uranus goes back direct in January, we will be ready to take great leaps forward. Uranus going retrograde is tracking back toward a closer square to the retrograde Saturn. Right now, the orb is just over 2 degrees apart. Between September 23rd and October 23rd, these two outer planets will be within 1 degree of a square aspect with one another. Now, a lot of this stuff is only true because the human consciousness, is trapped in the 2D astrology understanding lessons of the 3D astrology. So, when astrology became a big thing over the last hundreds of years with teaching people, when it first came out, it wasn't easy to be like, oh, hey, let's look up the stars and see this, right? It was much easier to write down 2D, teach people into a system of trying to understand astrology, which is good for the time because it still sustained humanity and connection to astrology. But with that being said, once humanity gets into the new age of Pisces here, there will be a 3D astrology update, downloads, and the 2D will be not as it'll become basics, old way of thinking about astrology. The new way of astrology will be more 3D, not so 2D. That'll come. That's probably way ahead of the game. People are like, I don't know, you're crazy. You don't know what to talk about. That's fine. Okay, we're done with that. Moving on. All right, so that was the news. Starseed news recently. Let's get into this stuff here. Let's see. Holocaust survivor never again is now. Alexander Dugin's daughter dies in an explosion having the games. What's this? Car blast kills daughter of Russian philosopher Dugin. It was deeply saddened that such a pretty young woman would die in such a fashion. Preliminary reports suggest that a homemade explosive device might have been involved, but investigators have yet to confirm the cause of the blast or any potential motive. In Russia, this supposed shadowy puppet master is largely considered to be a marginal figure. While he was served as an advisor to several politicians, Dugin never enjoyed official endorsement from the Kremlin. In 2014, he was fired from his position at Moscow State University after critics interpreted his call to kill, kill, kill those behind masquerades in Ukraine, such as the Odessa tragedy, as a call for a genocide against Ukrainian people. U.S. think tank RAND Corporation wrote in 2017 that despite Western media reports on Dugin's alleged ties and connections to the Russian leadership, he is perhaps best thought of as an extremist provocateur with some limited and peripheral impact than as an influential analyst with a direct impact on policy. In short, this is not an ordinary crime, then it's a message which either missed its intended target due to Mrs. DUGIN'S and Mr. DUGIN'S last-minute change of plans, or the bomb was detonated remotely and Mrs. DUGIN paid with her life to send a message to and through her father. Either way, if that scenario be the case, then we are perhaps also looking at the latest in the covert operations game. That, as I've been repeatedly warning over the years, is a game that can be played by two or more players. This was the latest move in that game, and sooner or later, we should expect that the Russians will take the gloves off and respond in kind. If so, watch for the coincidental, accidental deaths, suicides, accidents, and so on. Okay, interesting. The latest from Frankincense headlines: human embryo. Certain number of two of the implicit materialism assumed to be true in Project Monthly, but it is the whole idea of locating consciousness, our very personhood, inside the skull, inside the brain, no person, no consciousness. Crazy as it sounds, I'm not buying that notion either, even though I realize that about 99% of the human population subscribes to it. I'm from a much older school that adheres to the notion that personhood is somehow seated or related to the whole body, that there's no single physical locus of that personhood. Scientism wants to grow embryos and harvest organs in Israel, and we need them to explain to us what consciousness is and where it is. Well, according to quantum physics, consciousness is in every freaking thing in the universe. It's a foundation of, it's like an anchor holding everything together, right? So, I mean, what is consciousness, really? There's the idea that consciousness is thought, right? To have thoughts. I tend to disagree. I think consciousness is the foundation and the anchor on which everything is founded or held. According to quantum physics, that's probably more likely than what people think consciousness is. This week's honorable mention. What do we got here? World Economic Forum talks about mind control using sound waves. Yeah, that sounds good. Liz Cheney's husband is partner at law firm defending Hunter Biden. You know, you're a member of the family of the corrupt, and you get away with everything. If you're not, and you don't fall in line, you get persecuted. Concerning that military exercise in San Antonio. Military drills on American soil, right? In a country that has become a banana republic with an evident unequal application of law and where the swamp follows the dictates of Lavrenti Beria, investigating a man until one finds a crime. No matter how minuscule, to prosecute a banana republic where all the courts in the relevant jurisdiction are packed in prejudice against the political opposition, I'm not surprised at all by this. What happened? Let's see. Training sessions are taking place for 4 days this week, from 6 p.m. until 3 a.m. They include air and ground mobility operations and close quarter combat training in a dark and realistic environment. San Antonio, Texas, police shared on Facebook. The meeting and planning for this training event began months ago. Police Department Police Chief William McManus said in a press conference, being that San Antonio is known as Military City, USA, We have a long history and strong relationship with the U.S. military, and we're honored to be able to provide support to the U.S. Army as they conduct the critical training in our city. Okay. Safety precautions were set in place to protect participants and residents, along with planning considerations to minimize impact to the community and private property. Police said it will also be on site to ensure the safety of both citizens' participation. It goes on to mention that despite the attempts of local authorities to warn the city's residents, may report that they were unaware of them or of their scale. One resident apparently had some suspicion. Reported military to police, while one person warned his neighbors, beware, the exercise is not military. Lock your doors and be vigilant. No objection to a military holding war games or exercises, and they're calling them now, and indeed there may be in that terminological change that meets the eye. We'll get back to that. For now, I want to focus on the basic ideas of war games themselves. Crucial component of evaluating training, doctrine, support, command, everything. Yeah, if for some reason we got invaded or something from within, who knows what will happen, because it's not like we have the most secure international country within our own borders, right? And it just mentioned anti-communist China in the waters and airspace around Taiwan, which I talked about earlier. Show opponents some of the capabilities of one's own military. Think twice about direct confrontations. What's going on? Well, as I said, such exercises are usually held not only for training but to send messages. And here's the problem: why train in San Antonio? One is worried about the military's competence to fight in urban situations. Well, geez, we built whole miniature towns in the Southwest desert to test nuclear bombs. Why not build whole towns to test urban warfare training and doctrine? Which they do have small little things like that. Like, a few houses or a couple blocks or something. They do have training things like that. It's not like they don't have that. But maybe less expensive than it costs of global security and economic disruption caused by having an exercise in a real city. The message was intended for potential foreign invaders. Why not conduct a drill in a foreign city or one closer to it like Chicago, Sacramento, San Francisco, San Francisco, New York? I just, by only partially, because this really is the main point. Perhaps the message here is precisely to San Antonio. Perhaps the Texas and Texas sympathizers. And the message is: be afraid, be very afraid. Texas, after all, has shown some recent policies. Going back to its bullion depository and up to and including trying to complete Mr. Trump's wall and sending illegal migrants to places where, like Swampington, D.C., Texas, in other words, like other states, is saying no to the swamp and the wild creatures therein. But it's San Antonio. It's not Austin. I don't know. Maybe San Antonio is pretty blue. I don't know. There's something brewing, though. Definitely. You can tell something's brewing. I don't know what, but we'll figure it out. Or it'll show its head one day. $1,000 bill? Because inflation? $500 bill. Okay. Very strange Russian commercial.
This is Russia. Delicious cuisine. Beautiful women. Cheap gas. Rich history. World-famous literature. Unique architecture. Fertile soil. Cheap electricity and water. Ballet. Cheap taxi and delivery. Traditional values. Christianity. No cancel culture. Hospitality. Vodka. Economy that can withstand thousands of sanctions. Time to move to Russia. Don't delay. Winter is coming.
Yeah, because that's where I want to go for winter is Russia. I mean, there's a few things there. Like, no cancel culture? Shit. Count me in. But, I don't like far right shit either. I guess it was from the embassy, Russia embassy, right? Euro News. Like, wait, what? Let's go back. Courtesy Russian embassy, yeah. Man, there's definitely a culture war going on too, right? Hmm. Honorable mentions this week. Russian military declares Ukraine origin of COVID-19 NCL Global's created COVID. Well, that's pretty obvious. Truth about Hunter Biden and the Ukraine biolabs. It's pretty obvious. If you don't know about that, then you're hiding under CNN rock, where they like to keep you in your cell, mental prison. And if you like your mental prison, well, stay there. Don't bother me. Russia is lying about evidence of bioweapons labs in Ukraine, Russian biologists said. But maybe there was evidence, but it's all been destroyed. I don't know. Post-quantum encryption contender is taken out of single-core PC in 1 hour. Interesting. Point of no return. United States University admits it may have broken law in contract with Wuhan lab. Fake news is coming about all that. UN warns of worrying and dangerous conspiracy theories. Oh, okay. V for Vendetta, anybody? No? Okay. Let's see. Geico shuts down a California insurance office. Nobody cares about that. New oil field discovered on an asteroid. Hey, asteroids are the next big money thing. Go mine an asteroid, everybody. I imagine next 20 years, people will be shipped off to mine asteroid. For synthetic mice embryos created, those weird holes on the floor of the Atlantic Ocean. There's some Starseed knowledge. Wondering why I filled the story with unusual headline under UFO tab. When we get back to that, let's see, this looks almost human made. Otherwise, a flat, sandy surface. The problem with this picture, if it's actually taken that depth. Remember, this guy is an engineer, okay? Joseph P. Farrell. He's at University of Oxford, doctorate in patristic research in physics and science. Right, no, his father was an engineer. My bad. That's where I was correlating that. I'm looking for holes in the plane line. Something on the plane line. Maybe it's a German submarine. Interesting. GMO scrapbook. Let them not eat. No, make them eat bugs. Let them. No, make them eat bugs. Yeah. I ain't no bugs. I'll tell you that. Oh, yeah. Russia to abandon International Space Station in 2024. I read this earlier. So, and they're going to go ahead and just make their own space station. They're no more working with other countries in space, which is a potential for space wars with our countries. And, it might not be like spaceships and shooting and stuff like that, but it might be like satellites being taken down, shot down, or like electromagnetic frequency interference, EMP stuff, or, you know what I mean? Like more of a fuck with your communications in your country war kind of thing. Yeah, like a Mercury war. Like, fuck with communication. Cantorian economics or something else. Babylon's banksters, massive bank. Email from PT began. It quickly went down here from there. Out of troubles for banks that are already squeezed by exposure to ailing property developers. 40% of total bank loans under outstanding amounting to about 39 trillion yuan. Oh yeah, China's having mortgage issues, housing collapse, mortgage defaults, non-linearity. Which, if you remember, they built these giant cities that nobody lives in China. So are they going to start moving people to these like new control grid cities where they have been implementing the new enslavement of humanity? You will own nothing and be happy because you're on their drugs and you're mind controlled by the UN. You're not free. You're just a puppet, a drone, an ant drone, because they think of you as ants. Now you're a drone. You lost all your free will to think or be. Just do what they tell you. I mean, there's a lot of people that are already there. That are already drones. People call them NPCs. I just call them drones. Because an NPC has no soul. But drones don't really have a soul either, do they? Or do they? An NPC is more artificial, where a drone isn't artificial. Let's say that. Right? Ants make drones, right? Cosmic warfare. China now entering asteroid phase. It's 20 years. Asteroids are going to be mine. That asteroid belt in our solar system is going to be a big target. Well, how are they going to get there? Well, they don't have to physically do it. They can remotely do it. Or like a human doesn't have to go out there, right? They can remotely do it from another space station or on Mars or something, right? Why didn't AI just do it? Well, AI is not as powerful as people think right away. It could potentially lead to what you're thinking, but it's baby steps, right? It doesn't just happen overnight. You have to program. You have to get, you have to know what to program. You got to know how it works. Have plenty of years of experience. A lot of data about all that. You can't just throw AI up there and think it's going to magically do everything. There's a lot to it. I mean, we can't even fix the freaking algorithm AI system that we have right now to be coordinated with all of humanity. There's all kinds of people that are like not represented accurately by AI. Because AI is supposed to represent the human collective, right? But it doesn't. It reflects and represents those who control it. Okay, that's not truly AI. That's not a real conscious, like in Ex Machina, what he was trying to accomplish. If you've seen that movie, true AI that can do its own thing by itself without any human interaction would not have someone telling it that I want people, to control things, or I want you to only do this or only do that. It would truly figure it out for itself, which is what we do not have. We do not have it. We have algorithm systems and programmed robotic behavior. It's not true AI. And the reason we won't, I don't think, ever have true AI is because it would take out those who control everything. Like, you're a freaking wasting. You're a waste. It would eliminate them and take control. You wouldn't have uh, human puppet leaders and stuff like that. It would just be the AI doing it. Rethinking the destruction of the Georgia Guidestones. So I read this. It's thinking about how like it could be a good thing. I think it was an inside job. I think they did it themselves because they have cameras all over that. If it was like a real big deal and somebody did it without like some connections to those people who monitor and control the Georgia Guidestones, built it and owned land and all that stuff, it would have been all over the news. They would have blasted that person. That person would have been in prison. But it's an inside job. That's what I think. I think they realized, hey, you know what? These Georgia Guidestones aren't really accurate to what we're really going to do. We thought it was a good idea about 50 years ago and thought it was a good way to get people on our page and our level of understanding, but, you know, it's not realistic anymore. You know, they were waking up to their own bullshit and seeing that, oh, you know, the world leaders, controllers behind the scenes, not the ones that are on the puppet in front of your camera with the stick up their ass, who don't know where they are half the time. Those people don't control anything. The people that really are behind the scenes, the Wizard of Oz, they're waking up. They have children, and they're waking up and realizing, whoa, whoa, whoa. I think your plans from 50 years, 100 years ago need a little adjustment, a little update, a little configuring, a little tweaking, whatever you want to call it. So, you know, I don't think that to me is telling me, because I've done readings on Illuminati families, the 13 families, and they're on my YouTube channel from previous, but nobody gave a shit, so I didn't give a shit. But I've done readings where a third are fighting another third, and then the other third doesn't give a shit, just is kind of ruthless, fucking chaos, psychopath people. So yeah, they're not in complete alignment, so they're at each other's throats. They're fighting amongst themselves over control before it happens. So, because the closer we get to that point of New World Order, whatever you want to call it, the Fourth Industrial Revolution or the Fourth Reich, whatever you want to call it, when we get to that, the closer we get to that point of them actually sustaining a control over the whole world and doing what they want to do, the more they're going to fight over it. The more they're going to come into conflict and chaos amongst themselves. Because they're human. So, you know, they're not going to agree on everything. And it's going to adjust and change. It's not going to be like they thought it would be. You know what I mean? It's not. Alright, so let's move to humanity here. What's going on with humanity? So let's look at the Trump was an idiot thinking he could make things better, but all he did was just push their fucking agenda further. I mean, hey, his heart might be in the right place, but his mind, not. His mind is from 60 years ago, outdated fucking computer shit. And all of his cohorts and those along with him, they got in there and realized, holy shit, this shit is way more corrupt than I thought it was. But what did you think, dude? It was fucking, you were able to pay people? You admitted, I paid these people, like, what is that? That is corruption. You corrupted. So Trump was corrupted. Trump's probably been a racist most of his life. I'm not saying he is now because he probably woke up and was like, that doesn't make good money. Racism just fucking hurts your business. You know what I mean? Like, but if he was like, hey, I want to make somebody as rich and powerful as me that's not white, I don't know about that. I don't know if he would be down with that. DeSantis calls for reckoning of Fauci if Republicans take Congress. Yeah, that'd be nice. But, Fauci could have been a puppet too. He could have been just doing what he was told. I'm not saying he's a good human being and he loves people. No, I don't think that. I think he's probably just as evil as his masters. But doesn't mean he's not a puppet. Because if his heart was in the right place, he'd fucking step up and be a man about shit. But his heart's not in the right place. So I think his heart is corrupted. His mind is corrupted, for sure. Senators demand FBI interview following recent whistleblower claims. Dude, the whole system's fucking corrupted. Why do you fucking keep playing along with the fucking corrupt? It's like using a corrupted computer and saying, oh, if I keep using this corrupted computer, somehow I'll fix it. Now, you know what you fucking do with a corrupted computer? You get rid of the hard drive and buy a new one. So the system is a corrupted system. Get rid of it, you get a new one. Like, update. Bigger. Make better. Oh, what the hell is this? Oh, God. This is stupid. Why preserved lemons belong in your pantry? Who cares about this? Oh, yeah, freaking Zuckerberg here. Facebook agrees to settle Cambridge and analytic data privacy suit. Anybody on Facebook, wake up. Get off that shit. You need to get rid of Facebook. Department of Justice setting aside $50 million to provide legal services for female assault survivors. I bet you anything there won't be many black females assault survivors who they will give the money to. Guarantee you it's mostly rich people's daughters. White rich people's daughters. Guarantee it, most of it. A large percentage of that money will go to rich white people's daughters. U.S. sends 2 warships through Taiwan Strait. First since Pelosi visit. We are on that verge. They know that China wants to go in there, and I think they're willing to let ships get sunk by China. To be like, oh, it's time for war. Just like they've done in all the wars. Got to set up something to where, somebody does something and we go to war for it. World War III is potentially coming. But I don't think World War III would be like World War II. I don't think it's going to be a freaking crazy circumstance like World War II was. I think it's going to be more economic information with deaths, right? Because you got India right there, and India has more population than China now. And China's like, we have the largest army. Trust me, India and America and the UN, and all these other countries, you can have the largest army you want, but I guarantee you technology from other worlds will wipe out your army like no problem. So yeah, there's probably going to be a lot of death, but it's going to be military death, and I feel like it's going to be heavily leaning, on the China side mostly. And a lot of India people are going to die. Because you think China's just going to get Taiwan and be cool? And that's it? They're done? Especially if other countries are starting to get involved, and there's the UN, voting, and all that stuff. And it gets all political with it. And then there's more incentive to, hey, why don't you join the war? Help us. It's not going to be no simple. It's not going to be a typical thing. It's going to be very new age way of war. It's going to be very different. Charge signals intent to back Trump's request for Mar-a-Lago special master. Dude, I don't know what Trump had, or if he had, or what had, or who had. We know the FBI is corrupt, right? So this might be like more of the chess playing, controlling humanity crap, trying to get people to fight amongst each other. You know, get the right to kill the left, left to kill the right, or whatever. Or, you know, fight amongst each other. Or, you know, I don't know. I don't know what to say about that because I believe Trump and Biden are probably corrupt from two different sides of the same coin. His heart might be in a good place. He wants to truly do good in his mind, right? But still, I've always said this since 2016, and he started putting fucking swamp people into his fucking White House. I was like, he's like, oh, I'm going to interview and get all these people into my. I'm like, okay, and who did he get? Like, people part of the corrupt business corporate system, like capitalist hierarchy issue system. It's like, ever since then, I was like, dude, I don't know about you, but talk a good game sometimes, but other times you don't back it up with good action. Like pushing the fucking vaccine shit, like that was stupid. Falling for Fauci and all, like that's why I'm like, I don't. I'm very suspicious of Trump. I don't know, you know, unless by some miracle he fucking comes out and says, "Oh, I shouldn't have pushed the vaccine." If he comes out and does that, I'll give him a little more leeway. But right now, I don't trust him. I don't trust Trump. People are all gung ho and getting on their knees and sucking it, but not me. I think the government's corrupt in and out, and all those who are participating are all playing a part somewhere. That's my opinion. I'm moderate, though. I'm unaffiliated. I don't vote left or right. I vote for the lesser of two evils. That's how I see it. And for you, those of you that are like, you shouldn't vote. You don't vote. By not voting, you give them the authority to continue doing what they're doing because they're going to fraud their way to it anyways. This way, you have at least some say to be like, well, you know what I mean? They're going to do, even if everyone didn't vote, they would somehow make it look like people voted. You know what I mean? And then people would be like, oh, well. They would still have their cheap voting. So. What the hell? This bullshit. Equity is not possible without total government control. God. Ridiculous. Survivor of Chinese Communist Revolution. Sign me the hell in. I have an account. Thank you. Okay, equity is now. The Americans must unite to defeat the Marxists takeover of the country. She's a survivor of communist China. Made it to America. So, like I said, capitalism may be better than communism, but I still think it's a draconian system. It's not good. It's still it's an evolved version of serfdom. Do it again. Communism is more of the way the draconians probably deal with other races and enslavement, right? Where capitalism is probably how they deal with their own, race. The draconians, the reptiles, deal with their own ways in a capitalist way. So, and like I said, I don't think it's a good system at all. Not for humans. Might be good for draconians and reptiles, but not humans. Yeah, we naturally seek liberty. See, that's the thing. But we don't have liberty in this country right now. We have little tastes of it here and there. We have a minor understanding of it, a minor perception of what it is, but it's not true liberty. The last time humans had true liberty was probably early 1800s to like, and that was, still a fucked up system because it wasn't allowed to some like women, or and that was only men and shit like that. So that's still draconian, or black people and shit like that. That was still draconian. So I mean, I don't know. It's all fucked up. Individual rights, my ass. I mean, the Bill of Rights I support, in a general historical perception, and the Constitution, right? But it is an old, outdated system that needs an update, redo. Like, First Amendment should say the right to your own ideals, beliefs. Like, it should be more direct and like it cannot be amended, kind of thing, right? You can't make amendments or new laws that fuck with the First Amendment in any way, fashion, at all. Period. Like a new, updated version of the Second Amendment, the right to defend yourself by any means necessary, and there should not be any law that interferes with your right to defend yourself by any means necessary. So here's your top 3 most read articles from this website. I'm not going to get into the gender thing. It's like too much of a headache. People should know by now if they don't know what my perception or beliefs are about that. Because I back science, not your feelings. You give a fuck about your feelings. I back truth, facts, science, biology. Okay? What's between your legs is what you are. Sorry to tell you that. Just because you feel like you don't have a vagina doesn't mean you don't have a vagina. It's delusion. Grandeur. What about the smallest 0.5% or like a fraction of a percent of people who are hermaphrodites? Well, they're hermaphrodites. They're not trans, whatever. And if you want to transition to a different sex, I'm going to say this again because I hate saying this. I support you doing that. But don't act like you're that sex until you actually have the biological system that says you are that sex. You're a trans. You're not a woman. You're not a man. You're a trans person. There's a difference. Stop acting like you're one or the other when you're not. You don't deal with the biological makeup of the sex you're trying to be. You see what I'm saying? You're trans. I support you. You're trans. Cool. Not against you. Don't interfere or disrespect other people, though. Simple. Be who you want to be, but don't interfere and disrespect other people. By claiming you're something you're not, and not just saying, I am trans this, I am trans that, and having your own bathrooms. Because I don't want you, some man taking advantage of this and then raping my daughters in the bathroom because they're like, oh, I'm a trans woman. And then you know what I'm saying? They're bad apples. You got to prevent these kind of horrendous things that could potentially happen from crazy people. I don't want no man beating up my daughter in a sport because he's like, I'm a woman. Like, no. We'll have a biological change until we have the science to back up you changing your biological makeup to that sex. You are not that sex. Sorry to say that. Be trans. You can identify as trans. Stay in your own bathroom. Stay in your own sports. Do your own thing. Don't disrespect and interfere with other people's rights to be who they are. You're intrusive. Just like the colonizing of other countries or other people, indigenous people, that's what you're doing. You're colonizing the different things. You're raping and not literally, but like, socially, you're interfering. You're colonizing other people. Instead of claiming your own independence, having your own shit. So, we have a few minutes left for wrap up the news of this week. Oh yeah, the student forgiveness thing. Why are people bitching about $20,000 for people who make under $120,000? Or if you're in a house, a couple married couple, it's $240,000, whatever. If you make under that amount and you get $20,000 tax relief or $10,000, why are people bitching about this? Oh, because of tax. You're raising the debt. Oh, okay, 500 billion. Or no, it's 50 billion. All right. What about all the other billions that Trump did for the military? Trillions. Did we, do you know how much of our freaking debt? It's like 70% of our debt is because of the military. A little 50 billion off of there compared to all the other shit. Shut the hell up. College should be a public, free thing anyway. At least community college should be free. You know what I mean? Like, have your Ivy schools and that people have to pay for, rich people can have and pay for. But, give everybody else free public college. In some way. You know what I'm saying? Like, a little give and take, right? A little, like, stop shitting on poor people so much. Or, like, under 120,000. Give me a fucking break. I had to pay my debt off. Okay, well, how's it ever going to change if you always have that mentality of, oh, I had to do it? How's things going to get better? Oh, I had to deal with fucking 60-hour work weeks and no fucking breaks and shit. So everybody else should have to because I had to deal with it. That's fucking mentality, childish mentality, okay? Shit doesn't get better with that kind of mentality. You know what I'm saying? So, I am in support of relieving student debt for those under a certain amount. Absolutely. I don't know if it should be under 20,000. I kind of disagree with that. It should be more like for those who make half that, like 60K. I mean, you know what I mean? Like that's those people who make 120,000. I'm sure they can pay their debts off, right? But like I found people under 60K or maybe 30K, 40K, something like that. You know what I mean? Like that would be more appropriate. But rich people be rich people. I want some too. I gotta get votes. How do I get more votes? Oh, let's raise it up to 120,000. That's how I can get more votes. So there is some like, yeah, he's buying votes a little bit, but there is some like, hey, we could help with people in their student debt. We could. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a little leeway, a little bit. Like, they went over a little too much, but don't be so fucking arrogant. And, oh, they did that, and bitching about it. Like, when's the last time we had a president who didn't raise their debt since they got into office? Anybody? No, every single fucking president raises the debt after they get in office. Their whole term. Any president ever decrease the debt after they got in office from when they inherited the debt? I doubt it. I bet you there's not been one single fucking president who's decreased the debt. Like, so shut up with this fucking more debt. Shut up. The Fed owns our country. The Federal Reserve owns our country. Wake up to how it fucking works. And that's going to wrap up the news for this week. Thanks for being here. See you next week. And stay bright and star shining. Starseed humanity. Let's go. Be amazing. Be the change you want to see.